Namaste, welcome to HealingChamp channel. Many people talk about pre-birth planning, soul plans, and soul contracts. Some have experienced these things, but very few people help others explore these deeper dimensions through hypnotherapy, between life soul regressions, channeling with higher consciousness, and beyond. Today, I'm very happy to introduce two wonderful souls and guides, Rob and Liesel. Rob guides and coaches through hypnotherapy and between life soul regressions, while Liesel channels higher consciousness, what she describes as beings of light. I can personally speak to the depth of their work. I have experienced several sessions with them, and each has deeper meaning to me. I'm truly grateful to their guidance and the work they share with others. It is my honor to welcome Rob and Liesel to Healing Champ channel. Over to you, Rob and Liesel. It's
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you, Lakshmi. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
a true pleasure.
Our pleasure and knowledge is from us. Thank you. And my first question I would like to choose is, why do we choose pain or loss or disease or a struggle even before that we are born? Like, why do we choose that kind of a um, hard ones? So, those are heartbreaking ones. Why do we choose that pain?
There are a number of reasons for that, and I'll just rattle them off and then we can talk about them in detail if you want to. But there are five main reasons, and they are balancing and releasing karma, healing, being of service to others, experiencing contrast, and correcting or healing false beliefs or false feelings about oneself. If you distill those five reasons down, there's a common denominator, which is that they're all helping us to open into greater love. They're teaching us lessons in how to better give and receive love more freely and more fully. Contrast is really the big one out of the five. In our non-physical home, there's no contrast to the unconditional love that we are. Everybody loves everybody. So in that kind of atmosphere, you don't really understand or really appreciate what it means to be a being made from unconditional love. And so I think we come here to the physical plane and we go behind the veil, we experience amnesia and forget that we are love. And then by going through difficult experiences, it opens the heart and teaches us what unconditional love really and truly is. So by the time the lifetime is over, we leave with a much more profound self-knowing.
So, would you like to add on this one too?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that that pain and suffering, it's really like fuel for awakening. It's really like the gasoline that the soul uses in order to get where it wants to go. If you think about it, if when life is going super smoothly, we don't really question deeper reality, right? We don't really, or we don't really ask the question like, why is this happening? We're just, totally inundated with just what's what it, we're just there's no questioning happening. So that's another reason. I found in my own journey has very much been part of one of my greatest teachers has been obsessive compulsive disorder, which I struggled with for many, many years. And at times it was just absolutely torturous. But it ultimately caused me to really surrender much more deeply within. It caused the personality to have the motivation to look for something deeper. And as a result, like what we do right now, everything that we're doing is a result of having gone through that kind of, you could say, dark night of the soul. I don't think I would be doing the work that I do. I don't think I would know the depths of my own soul and the depths of oneness that I know now, I don't think that would be there had I not gone through those really difficult experiences, had I not had that fire to awaken.
These are the beautiful answers. I definitely, or I can say these are the realities. But when people are going through that suffering, right, they wonder, why did I do? What did I do? What did I do that went wrong? Or what is this sin or the punishment that I'm seeing? God, give me the strength. Like, those kind of prayers will come out, and those kind of and even people feel that the people who are suffering, they'll say like, oh, it is a bad omen to talk to this person who is going through sin or so going through punishment, and this person do not have money, or this person is having a bad behavior, or an alcoholic. So people will be away from those people, right? So the other peoples will be, because they, and the people who are going through, they feel that is as a punishment. How do we see that? How do we know that is a soul plan?
The idea that it's a punishment is an old uh, concept of karma. And what I found in the research for my 3 books is that is not really what karma is. Karma is a feeling of incompletion. So when a lifetime is over and you return to the non-physical home, you have a life review and you see everything that occurred in the past incarnation. And if there's anything that you feel incomplete with, that feeling of incompletion is the karma, but it's definitely not a punishment. From the viewpoint of pre-birth planning, it's looked at as an opportunity to evolve, an opportunity to be of service, an opportunity to open into greater love.
So, what is the soul plan, and why do we create such kind of a plan before coming into this life?
Well, there isn't just one soul plan for a lifetime, and this is an important thing to understand. There are many, many pre-birth plans. Liesel channels a collective consciousness called the beings of light. We refer to them affectionately as the BOL. And the analogy that they shared with us is that if you think of a stack of sheets of paper, everybody has their own stack. And in this analogy, each sheet in the stack is a complete set of pre-birth plans. So the sheets vary according to vibration or frequency. The sheets at the top of the stack are the highest vibrational pre-birth plans. Those are the ones where the learning is done through love, peace, and joy, and not so much through pain and suffering. Sheets at the bottom are the opposite. That's where most of the learning is done through pain and suffering, and not so much through love, peace, and joy. The sheet that is in the very middle is the most likely set of pre-birth plans when the pre-birth planning is done. And then, depending upon your free will decisions, you move up or down in your stack of sheets of paper. You move up when you make loving decisions. You move down when you make fearful decisions. So what everybody wants is to move up in their particular stack. And the way to do that is just to ask, anytime you have to make a choice, what would love with a capital L do now? And then just do that. Then you raise your vibration and you move up in your stack of sheets of paper.
And I'd like to add that, whatever is sort of, you could say, the active plan right now that you're in, that corresponds to your vibrational frequency, the purpose of that plan itself is to move you into higher realization, is to move you into higher consciousness. And it's again, it's like when you're in a kind of a lower vibratory state of consciousness, and those more difficult, challenging things are happening, they're meant to break you open, so to speak. They're meant to lead to like a loss is meant to lead to like a heart opening, a deeper compassion, deeper empathy for others, etc. And so again, even within the actual life plan, it's not that when you're at this these denser vibrations, it's not that you're being punished. It's that those experiences are what will most lead to a greater opening for your soul to come through in this life. And so that in and of itself will help raise your vibration, raise your consciousness, thereby accessing higher life plans. But if you learn to evolve more consciously, if you learn to do the things that help us raise our consciousness, like meditation, etc. If you start doing that more consciously, and your vibration starts, you could say, rising on its own, or more accurately, it would be to say that you start shedding some of the denser beliefs and stuff, and which then result in the natural rising of your consciousness, then you can start accessing those higher level life plans just automatically without having to go through the experience of some of the more challenging life plans, if that makes sense.
So what you're saying is that during the suffering, take the help of love. Is that what you are trying to say?
Yeah. Another thing you could say is ask yourself the question during the suffering, what is this wanting to teach me? Or you could ask, like, if you could take some of the divine virtues that Rob might share a little bit more after I speak here about what divine virtues are, but you could take and ask yourself, what would unconditional love do in this situation? If I was embodying unconditional love more, what would my response be like? And then follow that impulse. Rob, do you want to just share very quickly a little bit more about the divine virtues and how that how by looking through that lens at one's challenges, that can help open them up?
Sure. So in the research that I did for my 3 books, I had the extraordinary opportunity to go into people's pre-birth planning sessions and actually hear the conversations they had with other members of their soul group when they were planning their most difficult challenges for the upcoming lifetime. And I noticed over a period of time that these conversations often revolved around a soul level desire to cultivate and then express, while in body, certain qualities that are very important to the soul. And I made a list of these qualities that came up the most often, and I gave them the term divine virtues. It's things like unconditional love, faith, trust, patience, empathy, kindness, compassion, and so on. In the divine virtues exercise that we do in workshops, we work with a list of about 28 that have come up the most often in my work. Most people are working on 2 or 3 in a lifetime. If you have an intuitive sense of which virtues you're working on, or if you do the divine virtues exercise with us and find out which ones you're working on, that's very valuable information to have, because then anytime in the future that something difficult happens, instead of feeling victimized by it, instead of not seeing any deeper meaning in it, you can just say to yourself, okay, I know that I'm in this incarnation to cultivate and express whatever it might be, kindness, gentleness, compassion. And then you ask the question, knowing that, how can I work with this new challenge to cultivate and express those particular divine virtues? So it has the effect of immediately assigning deeper meaning to a challenge that otherwise might appear not to have any deeper meaning.
So is this what your second book about soul gift is all about, Rob?
Not specifically. The books, Your Soul's Plan, Your Soul's Gift, Your Soul's Love, they're case studies of pre-birth planning. And in the books, I go through pretty much every major challenge that we face here in the Earth School. And in a case study format, I show why somebody planned that difficult experience before they were born. But if you dive into those chapters, and particularly if you go into the pre-birth planning sessions that are in those chapters, you hear souls talking about this challenge that I'm planning will help me to become more compassionate, or this experience that we're planning together, this will give me the opportunity to be kind. They're talking very much in those terms. There's great consistency across the pre-birth planning sessions because these divine virtues are important to everybody.
So, and so the major, our to go is why, the question why comes in, right? Whenever the suffering happens, we have to go back to the question why, and then we have to follow our the God's given gift, or the ones that we already have. It is that, did I say it rightly, or
You're asking why we do this?
yeah, so the again, when that suffering happens, so go back to the why question, why did I plan this? Then you have an answer to it. So ask differently. So the way you're saying is that ask differently. Instead of saying that why I'm having the sufferings, what I need to learn, is that how?
I understand what you're asking. I think the way I would phrase the question is, when something challenging arises, you could ask the question, if I planned this before I was born, why might I have done that? And when you phrase the question that way, it doesn't even require a belief in pre-birth planning, but it still takes you to the underlying meaning and the underlying purpose of whatever the challenge might be. It has the effect of assigning deeper meaning to something that often appears to just be random and arbitrary and meaningless.
So, where if the soul plan is to learn some lesson, then why some will leave this planet Earth early, while as some people take their complete their old age, you know? So, why some souls even leave during the pregnancy itself, right? Even before they were born. So what is that? Why, if they want to learn a lesson, they need to learn fully, right? So what is the reason for leaving it early in the life?
Because from
Go on.
well,
Go ahead.
so from the soul's perspective, it's learning through all of its lifetimes simultaneously. So from the soul's perspective, one particular lifetime is not really per se all that important. What's important to the soul is the learning. And so if the soul assesses that it's not going to really make a lot of progress, or it's not really going to learn what it wants to learn in the given lifetime, then from the soul's perspective, it's just like, okay, well, let's try it in another lifetime. So it's not it's not, from the personality's perspective, it's very focused on just this lifetime. But the soul, can see from a much more expanded point of view. So
What I'd like to add to that is that, when you ask the question, why do some people live to an old age and others transition very early, maybe even before the pregnancy is over? Very often, when a soul chooses to leave at a young age or even before a pregnancy ends, it's a soul that has not been on Earth before or had very few incarnations on Earth before. And all it's really doing is, so to speak, dipping a toe into the water. It just wants to touch into the Earth plane, get a sense of what it's all about, and then go back home. Now that raises the question, why would the parents agree to having that experience? Because it always has to be with their agreement. The parents generally agreed to losing a child or losing a fetus as a heart-opening experience. The pain from that is so intense, so enormous, that if they choose not to go into anger or bitterness and really work with the pain in a constructive way, it profoundly opens the heart. And so if you talk to parents who have lost a baby or a young child close to the time that it happens, they just talk in terms of how overwhelming the pain is. But if you talk to the same parents again 5 years, 10 years down the road, they will often say something like, that was intensely painful. It was the most intense pain I've ever known, but it opened my heart, and I'm a much more loving person because of it.
So true. Actually, I would like to give my experience after my 22 years son left transitioned. Then after few days, then I started loving even non-physical things like a table, chair, everything. I used to say so many times, thank you for the cup, for holding that hot beverage so that I can, without, so I used to even say so many times, so much thank you to so many things. And I used to love, sometimes I used to get so scared to go out because I don't know whom I love, so because I love that little breath of grass because it gives me so much comfort. So that love was immense. I totally agree what you are saying. It personally connects to me, both the Rod and Liesel. It is.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really beautiful and touching. And that's exactly the kind of response that the soul is hoping the personality will have.
So coming back, sometimes suicide is often seen as taboo, and some people believe it brings severe spiritual consequences. Some others believe it is totally punishment. From soul's perspective, how do we understand this suicide? Especially some people will say that particular soul will not reach the God, and it will be somewhere in the middle, and it will be like a ghost. And there are people who are so fearful for that. What could be the part of the soul's plan in that kind of a suicide and around it?
So in my second book, Your Soul's Gift, there's an entire chapter about the pre-birth planning of suicide. And the story there is about a woman named Carolyn who loses her only child, a son named Cameron, to suicide. The suicide happened shortly after Cameron graduated from high school. So he was about to go to college in a few months. It was a point in his life where his mother, Carolyn, was so excited about this new life that he was about to embark on. But he had been suffering from extreme depression and anxiety. And she came home a few days after his high school graduation and found that he had hung himself from a rafter in their home. And she was actually the one who had to climb up there, cut the rope, and bring the body down. So she and I worked with Pamela Cribet, who is a channel in the Netherlands, who channeled both Cameron and Jesus for the channeling session in that chapter. And at the beginning of the channeling session, Jesus comes in, and I ask him, is suicide planned before we're born? And he says, it is never planned as a certainty, but it is planned as a possibility or a probability, or rarely a probability so high as to be almost certain. And then he explains that was the case with Cameron. Cameron was bringing back into body unhealed energies from past lives for the purpose of healing them. And it was foreseen in his pre-birth planning session that he was doing this to such a degree that it would cause intense depression and anxiety, and that a suicide was actually highly likely. Now, people will ask, why in the world would a soul plan a lifetime in which a suicide is highly likely? Well, later in that same channeling session, Jesus explains that the suicide was actually a turning point for Cameron's soul. And he goes on to explain that what he means by that is that when Cameron was here in a body, because of the intense depression and anxiety, he couldn't feel his love for his family, nor could he feel his family's love for him. Well, as we talked about earlier, the bottom line purpose for any incarnation is to give and receive love as freely and fully as one possibly can. So in Cameron's case, the depression and anxiety prevented him from fulfilling the fundamental purpose of a lifetime on earth. Then Jesus goes on to explain that now, from the other side, from the non-physical vantage point, Cameron fully feels his love for his family and his love for them. So he says that this is a turning point for Cameron's soul. And he talks about how the soul uses polarities of light and dark, like Cameron experienced while he was here in a body, to foster its spiritual evolution. That's the gist of what that chapter talks about.
Yeah. And also, Rob, would you like to share that other portion that came through in the channeling about, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. Liesel is referring to another portion of the channeling session in which what I feel is the single most healing piece of information I've ever come across in all the years that I've been doing this work. Jesus tells us later in the channeling session, and I'll quote here, he says, "Every suicide preventable by outside forces was indeed prevented." And then he goes on to explain that what that means is that if a suicidal person has the slightest openness or willingness to change their mind and not go through with the suicide, Spirit knows that, and Spirit stages an intervention. The intervention could be almost anything. It could be something as simple as a bird flying by, the bird distracts the person, and they don't go through with that. It could be something as simple as somebody walks by and smiles at the person. The smile makes them feel a little bit better, and they don't go through with that. It could be an angelic intervention in which an angel assumes human form. And I know somebody who had this experience and actually tells the person, don't go through with the suicide. But the bottom line being, if the suicidal person has any openness to change their mind, Spirit knows that and stages some kind of intervention. What that in turn means is that if you lost somebody you love to suicide, they had no openness or willingness to change their mind, which means there was literally nothing you could have done to prevent the suicide. So, for anybody in your audience who has lost a loved one to suicide, I would invite you now, take any guilt or self-blame you may feel, set it down and step away from it. There was literally nothing you could have done.
So beautiful and so profound. Liesel, would you like to add something here?
Yeah, I can't top that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that, for those that may have lost someone to suicide, just really take that in, that that there was nothing that you could have done differently that would have prevented that. Because I know that, the mind can just play scenarios over and over again. And so that's just an invitation to set that, as Rob said, set that guilt down, let it go, turn it over to God.
And if you've lost someone to suicide or any form of death, what your loved one most wants for you is to go on and be happy and be at peace. And they will check in on you from time to time, or perhaps quite frequently from the other side. They know how you're doing. So if you find it difficult to go on after the suicide of a loved one or any kind of death of a loved one, know that what the loved one most wants for you is to pick up the pieces as best you can and find a way to be happy. If you can't live your life for yourself, live it for them, because they will check on you, they know how you're doing, and it will bring them great joy to know that you have gone on to be happy.
That's beautiful My next question is, since you are talking about the Jesus and everything, so who are these counselors or who are these guides? Do we meet them before? Obviously, we might have met them before our born, but what is their role that they play in our life, especially in this life? Especially many of says that we cannot see the God or the goddess or guru or whoever it is, right? They are the same? Is the counselors are the same as the God and the goddess and the guru, or is they are something different? Like in the previous example, this Jesus came in and gave the information. Is that are the counselors are the same ones?
Well, I think we have to distinguish here between some fundamental groups of beings. So there are spirit guides, and there's what is called your council of elders, and there are the ascended masters. Spirit guides are highly evolved beings who are non-physical, they're not in form, and you plan your life in detail with them before you come into body, and then they guide you day to day, moment to moment after you're here in a body. The Council of Elders, and everybody has their own council, is a small group, usually 6 to 12 beings who are highly, highly evolved, far beyond the level of spirit guides. Their level of evolution is so high, it's really beyond human comprehension. They oversee your personal evolution. So I'm a hypnotist. I practice something called a between lives soul regression. When somebody does a between lives soul regression, they go to their Council of Elders and they ask questions about what did I plan? Why did I make those plans? How am I doing? And how can I do better? Those are the main questions people will put to their council. And the council is happy to answer those questions. And then we have the ascended masters like Jesus. These are also very, very highly evolved beings, higher in vibration than spirit guides. As I understand it, everybody has at least one ascended master who works with them. The ascended masters, their consciousness is so vast, so expansive, that they can work with many, many beings all simultaneously. The consciousness of Jesus is so vast, he could work with as many beings as would like to work with him. So they're not limited in any way by numbers. So we have our guides, we have our council of elders, we have one or more ascended masters working with us, and they all love us unconditionally. They have no judgment of us, no matter what we do or don't do. And they are here to help us get the most out of the incarnation.
And I'd like to add to that, the way in which that's being presented is sort of like at various different levels, right? Uh, However, simultaneously, all of that, there's just one consciousness in which that is happening. So you could say that all of those beings, and actually including us, including literally all beings and literally all things, are all one consciousness. So it's it's a helpful way of looking at it, to look at it in that sort of broken apart kind of way, or in that hierarchical way. It can be helpful for the mind to digest it, but it's also important to recognize that that's just one frame of reference of looking at it. And in the ultimate frame of reference, or you could say that that's a relative truth, but the absolute truth is more that there is just one consciousness or one being, and you could say it's showing up in these different ways. It's showing up as your incarnate personality, and it's also showing up as your council of elders and these ascended masters, etc. And so from that greater vantage point, your council of elders are you, actually.
Not you. It's me. That's the higher self itself, you're saying, Lisa?
I'm saying, like, it even the the higher self is is when you say the word higher self, it's kind of like a looked at as a portion of consciousness, but really as deep as awakening deepens more and more, it's recognized that it's all one. It's all one consciousness. So it looks like it's appearing as, you know, Lakshmi and Liesel and Rob, and also as these highly evolved beings that maybe we have some internal experiences with, like Jesus or the Council of Elders. But really, that's all one. And so you, as the one consciousness, are appearing in all those different ways. And as awakening deepens, that's known more and more clearly.
She's referring to what some people call the infinite self or the true self or the self with the capital S. Another term would be the ground of all being. An analogy that came to me the other day that I think is helpful here is popsicles. You know, there are popsicles. There are popsicles of many different colors. There are popsicles of many different flavors,
Yeah.
but all the popsicles are made out of water. That's the underlying substrate of every single popsicle in existence. And it's the same way with human beings, spirit guides, council of elders, ascended masters. There are these surface differences like there are with popsicles, but the underlying substrate is the same in every instance. And that underlying substrate is divinity, or the self with the capital S. It's the same essence in every single being.
So I concur with both of you because the reason is that I have taken between life soul regressions from both of you. So at that point of time, I met my counselor, guides, masters. Each time they come in and they give their different names. So sometimes they give as a Dattatreya, sometimes he gives like different names that I do the prayers. Even sometimes I never noticed that I pray to those, those higher consciousness. So it's really wonderful. So I totally agree. It is the basic, this I get the same love, affection, same guidance, but each time they come in with the giving different names. So yeah, I concur with you. So now my next question is, Liesel, what exactly is channeling? Because there are plenty of different names. So sometimes some people call medium, some people say psychic, but what really is this channeling and what happens when you channel? Like who are these higher conscious, again, the same things, but who are these higher consciousness and what happens when you channel? Like, do you, some people say that their voice changes or something like that. What exactly?
Right. Yeah. So I am not a trance channel. Some people are what might be called a trance channel, and that's more along the lines of what you're talking about, where their voice changes, where there's truly kind of, you know, something fully taking over their physical body, and they may even, that channel may even not have a recollection of what is said while the channeling is coming through. It's not quite like that for me. There's still awareness, but uh it's difficult to describe. It's um it's like all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but it's like dropping into more that space of unity consciousness. And there is a sense of being there and being with these enlightened beings, with these highly evolved beings. And then things just start to download, so to speak. Messages just come. All of a sudden, there are epiphanies, or all of a sudden there'll be like a visual image that appears in my head, of an analogy of something that explains like something I've been struggling with, etc. And then what will happen is I'll tend to go get pen and paper, and I'll start writing it down, and it'll start formulating into words. But that may be a very different experience of what it looks like. Another person who channels may have a very different experience of what it looks like. I think it's very unique to each person. And I will also say that I have noticed that as my own awakening deepens, as it becomes clearer and clearer to me that it is all just this one consciousness, that I am this one consciousness, and that the beings that I'm channeling are actually at the deepest level are me, then it's like there's less and less of a difference between Liesel and the beings of light. And so there's less and less contrast. So what I notice now is actually a lot of times information and wisdom will come through, and I'll do all this writing, but it's not even necessarily, I don't know if I would even call it channeling anymore, because there's not as much of a sense of difference. I think when I first started doing it, there was a sense of like, Liesel's in there with dropping in on all these expanded beings. But that's fallen away more and more, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you for telling me. The main reason I asked this question is that there is a lot of the moment we talk about something beyond the body, people will come up with so many myths, so many other questions, It's all about how we are rooted. So well said. It's how we are rooted. So how deep in our are. So that the reason we came to understand that oneness. And this is really great information. I really personally like it. So thank you for saying that. Just not to say that, okay, there is something difference between magic and a miracle. So this is miracle, so rather than a magic, so that's what like, yeah.
Really, miracles are actually the most natural thing in the world. It's actually it's because reality is being filtered through this narrow thing of our mind and our incarnate personality, that miracles don't actually seem to be happening just left and right. But as we drop some of those distortions, then we'll see that miracles are just the natural way of life. Because if you think of it this way, if there's really only one consciousness, if there's one intelligence that is the entire universe, then it makes complete sense that it could be orchestrating everything as this intimate dance. And those things that seem like miracles to us, like synchronicities, etc., well, they just make sense if it's just one being, right, showing up in all these myriad of ways.
So beautifully described. So having said that, because I immensely got benefited with the between life soul regression, what what happens when we go beyond this life, and why do we have to do it, and what is that someone actual experience during these sessions?
You're asking about the between life soul regression?
Yes.
So what happens in a between life soul regression, and you can do it either as a private session or in one of our group online workshops, but the steps are the same. We start with some preliminary steps to help you relax physically and mentally. And then I guide the client or the group into a past life. It's almost always a past life that had a big impact on the plans for the current lifetime, or is in some way thematically related to the current lifetime. You experience several different scenes in the past life, the last of which is the death scene. The portion of your consciousness that is having the experience leaves the body in the death scene and crosses back over to the other side, which is a very gentle and safe and easy process. When you get there, usually a spirit guide will greet you, but it could be a loved one, an angel, or an ascended master. Whoever greets you will tell you why you were shown that past life and how it's related to the current lifetime. And then at the end of that conversation, that being will take you to your council of elders. The council is always completely unconditionally loving and completely non-judgmental. They know literally everything about you, including everything about the plans for your current lifetime. Now, if the person is doing it as a private session, they will have filled out an intake form in which they put their questions for their counsel. So I'll use the form to prompt them to ask all of those questions. If we're doing it in a group online workshop, I have a standard set of questions that covers all the major areas of everybody's life. So I'll prompt the group one by one to go through those questions and ask those questions of their counsel. In the group workshop, even though everybody is asking the same questions, they're receiving individualized answers. So it's still a personalized experience. Also, I want to mention in the workshops, if for any reason you want to ask your own questions and not use the ones that I'm prompting the group to ask, you can do that. You can go off and have entirely your own conversation with the council. So the process takes about 2 hours in both a private session and in the workshop. If it's done with translation, which it often is, then it's 3 hours long. By the time it's done, you should have a very good idea of what you plan for this lifetime, why you made those plans, how you're doing in terms of fulfilling your plans, and how you can better fulfill your plans. You should understand the major purposes of all the major relationships in your life, the underlying meaning and purpose of all the major challenges. Those are the sorts of things that we talk to the council about.
Yeah, and I'll just add if it's something that resonates for you, if it calls to you, we're doing two between lives soul regressions coming up in the near future. One is September 13th, and the other is October 25th of 20. This is all in 2026.
Lisa, do you want to say a word about star souls?
Sure. We also do, and Lakshmi, have you ever done a Star Souls regression?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. We also do another regression that's very near and dear to my heart. Um, this regression was actually channeled entirely from the beings of light, and it's entitled Star Souls, and it's meant to help you connect to lifetimes, not necessarily on this planet, lifetimes in other galaxies, other planets, even other dimensions, other realms like the angelic realm. Actually, you can also connect to lifetimes. Maybe in ancient civilizations on Earth that had really strong connections to the stars and to star beings. And ultimately, all of us are star seeds. All of us here are on Earth are star seeds. So everybody has this connection beyond Earth somewhere in there. You could say lineage of lifetimes. And this regression, maybe more so than the between lives soul regression that Rob was just speaking of, this regression, the Star Souls regression, is a little more focused on energy, a little more focused on helping you strengthen those energetic connections to these higher level beings, and also helping you download the gifts you may have brought into this lifetime, that you have wanted to be able to express in this lifetime. Gifts that maybe you had in these other lifetimes that you would now like to embody more and more while you're here on Earth. Particularly, there are a lot of souls that have come to Earth particularly at this time where humanity is making this massive shift in its vibration, where humanity is going through an ascension process and awakening at a very in a very collective kind of way. There are many of us that have come and chosen to be incarnate now on Earth in order to help facilitate this transition. So this workshop is very helpful in bringing those gifts, you could say, out of latency and into physical incarnation, if that makes sense.
It makes sense because I will give you my personal experience here. My masters, my guides told me that, yeah, I'm a star seed too. Like everyone is a seed in this universe. Then I said, like, a seed will be like digged deep into the soil. How can I be the seed? How can I be the seed? I asked this question to my masters. Then my masters told me that, where are you? I said that I'm in the earth, right? I'm in the planet Earth right now. So then, are you on the top of the earth? Are you on the side of the earth? Where are you? So then I realized that, yeah, I'm in the inside of that earth. It's the same thing, just like a seed, which is inside the soil. So it's so true. It's so true. So thankful to you. And again, once again, so because I get so excited. So whenever these kind of things will have and there are several people who has the chattering mind, who thinks that I cannot concentrate, I cannot relax. How do those people still can have these experiences, whether it is between life or the starseed sessions?
They can, and the crucial thing there is to have a regular meditation practice, or if you're not going to have a regular meditation practice, at least meditate regularly in the 3 to 4 weeks before you do between life soul regression or a star souls experience. The reason meditation is so helpful is that in meditation, you cultivate the perspective of the witness or the observer. You learn how to witness thoughts without following them, without being interested in them. And so if you're doing the between lives regression or the star souls regression, and then thoughts arise, you've got some practice under your belt. You don't follow them, you don't get upset by them. You can just think of them as clouds gently drifting by. All you have to do is watch them flow by.
It's nice. So everyone can do it, just little practice and a small push and that intention. So, so if our soul has a plan, how do we stop worrying about the past or the present or the future? How do we truly live in this present moment? What is the final message you want to leave with us, both Ram and Lisa, on this?
The final message I would leave is that one of the reasons, and there are many, that it's important to be present in the now moment is that when you're present, that's when you receive guidance and instruction. So if you want to know how to live this life in a way that's congruent with your pre-birth intentions, there's really no better way to discover that than being fully present in the now moment. You'll receive guidance, you'll receive instruction, and the guidance and instruction will put you on the path that will fulfill the intentions that you created before you were born.
Yeah. And another thing that I would say is, if you find that the mind is, doing its squirrely thing, right? Where it's going into the past and the future. Really, really see if you can pay attention to that and see and start to recognize that even those thoughts, even when it seems that you're going into the future or it seems like you're going into the past, that's not actually even true because those thoughts are happening now. So if you can bring your attention to the fact that they are happening now, then you can also see what else is happening now. Like those thoughts are just one of the phenomena that are arising as this present moment. And we have just paid so much attention to thought for so long that when thoughts arise, particularly when they have a charge to them, then we stop paying attention to all the other things that are present right now. But when you start to recognize that when we go into the past and when we go into the past or we go into the future, that's not really even a true statement. A truer statement is to say that in the now moment, thoughts about the past or thoughts about the future are arising as one of just the myriad of phenomena that are arising in the now moment.
Thank you for both of your wisdom. And I want to tell to my audience that this is not a paid promotion, neither the Rob or Liesel paid anything for us, just because I have experienced their authenticity, their work, and the healing. And healing needs a courage. I wanted everyone to have that courage and to get the heal. That is the reason for this conversation, for this, and I'm so thankful to both of you for being here and sharing your time and experience and wisdom to our audience. It is grateful, and I know many people will like to take something out of this and make useful of it. And it has been honor and again much pleasure with both of you.
It was our pleasure, and thank you for having the Healing Champ podcast. I think you're fulfilling your pre-birth mission by doing this, and you're obviously bringing a lot of light and love into the world. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thank you. Namaste. And wishing you both love and light. All the very best.
Thank you.
You too. We look forward to seeing you again in one of the workshops.